day everyone, welcome to this video and welcome to this episode. In this episode I would like to talk mainly about seasons and some other stuff too. What is these seasons I mentioned in the title? This of course means that depending on the current month in the game, so from January to December, depending on which month it is, the seasons change. And now you see is the 22nd November, and compared to the previous episodes, to the previous videos, you see that this landscape now is a little bit more brown, a little bit more yellowish. So this is because it is autumn. And of course the seasons change in every 3 months, so from December to February it's winter, from March to May it's spring, from June to August it's summer, which was the default to this version, and from September to November, which you see now, is autumn. And in the original game, in the original Transport Tycoon, there were no seasons. And I know this is not a remake and not a remastered version of that game, I told you this, but I wanted to create seasons. I played sometimes with Transport Tycoon Deluxe, and Deluxe had climates. And you could choose a subarctic climate, and the landscape was snowish. Had snow at that settings, and I always loved that. And now you see it's the 30th of November, you see it on the top left, and in a couple of seconds it's going to change to winter. And now this is winter because it's the 1st of December. I know I did not make any textures yet, and I'm not sure I will, for the buildings, for the vehicles and for the trees. So mainly just the landscape updates. I think that this way that you see these colorful objects, so this green postcar and that yellow bus and that white yellow tram and those green trees and these red brick buildings, this way the landscape looks a little bit warmer, so it's much more friendly, I think. Maybe I will try it out with snowish textures for the buildings also, but I think this way it looks nice too, and it starts to look like a real game. By the way, I don't have any title yet, so if you have any ideas what to call this game and what to call my project, feel free to leave a comment. And of course you can change and you can deactivate this seasons mode in the settings. And by the way, I made the shortcut keys available for this bottom block, for this bottom menu block also. So F1 is info, which was already used, F2 is loading game, F3 is saving game, F4 is settings or game options, and F5 is company info. So now I am in this 3D mode and I hit F4, I jump to this game options window. And you see that we have an option for seasons, which is now auto, so that it means it's automatic. So the textures change in every 3 months, like I said a couple of minutes before. But if you don't like this, you can set your own season. So if you want to play in the default look, so you can choose the summer and hit OK, and this is the default which you saw in the previous videos. So now the textures will not change in every 3 months. Of course you can select spring, which looks a little bit more green, a little bit more fresh, and of course you can choose winter, but now if you select auto is the same because it's the 17th of December. Of course, you can choose to have this texture in minimal, so now it's going to be minimal style winter, or you can change, for example, to have it autumn and in smooth style. Of course, this is not completely smooth yet. I talked about in one of the previous episodes. You can find the links always in the descriptions. Or you can change to a classic spring, which I already showed you, but now I change back to automatic and classic. I think it looks nice, and this is a feature which I always wanted to create to program for this game. By the way, with these 4 seasons and these 3 different texture types, you can choose between 12 different options. But I always tell you this, that I prefer the classic and the automatic. Another thing which I fixed since the last episodes, or I worked since the last episodes, is how the vehicles drive around and the priority between these vehicles. So in the last 6 minutes I think you did not see any collision between the trams and the trucks and the buses. So I fixed these. Now they drive much safer. It's not perfect yet because sometimes there are some bugs, some little bugs, but as I told you in one of the previous episodes, we do not have to be ashamed of if we have bugs. The point is to find these bugs and to fix these bugs. Another thing which I try to work on is this tram rail. Some of you mentioned in one of the early episodes, and you were right, that these tram rails were too far apart from each other, depending on the size of this little tram. So now what I did, I moved these tram rails a little bit closer to each other, and now it looks a little bit nicer. It's not perfect yet. It looks a little bit nicer and a little bit more realistic, but maybe I will work on this in the future, but for me now it's good to go. By the way, if you like what I do, please feel free to subscribe. And another thing which you see here, which is also a difference for this version, is that these 2 stations are pretty close to each other. So this is a bus stop and this is a tram stop. And in the previous episodes you could not have 2 stops this close to each other. And now if you select handling stations and you place here, of course you cannot create any new bus station here because this place is too close to another station, which is this one. But as now the program knows the difference between a bus station and a tram station, you can create a tram station here, because this is different than this station. So this is a tram station and this is a bus station, and you can have 2 different stations close to each other. This is happening here also, and this also means, of course, that half of the people will choose this station and half of the people will choose this station. I could program it other ways too, so for example I could make it that way that 60% of the people choose this station and 40% of the people choose this station, but now it's 50-50. Of course, there are some passengers traveling from those stations. I just have the passengers visibility set to hide. In the menu now I set it to show and hit OK, and now you see that there are some passengers waiting at the tram stations, and also some passengers at this bus station. So I just had this set off. So if you jump here to this game options window, you can hide this, and now I hide this because I don't want these to be visible. So this is the new feature I did in the last weeks, and I know I still just have these 3 or 4 type of buildings. I have this red brick building, I have this brown building, and I have this post office, and maybe it's time for me to create some new buildings to make this little world a little bit more colorful. Of course, we can create much larger landscapes, but I like to use this very small terrain for demonstrating my game. Of course, I have plans to create much nicer stations, because the bus and the tram stations now look the same, and these are just some European bus stop tables, so I will create some nice minimal art station objects for the game, hopefully. Updates will come, and I hope you like my videos, and really, if you have some ideas how to call this little project, how to call this little game, feel free to leave a comment, and feel free to subscribe so you don't miss the next episodes. So this was for today. I hope you liked it. See you next time. Bye bye.